Hi everyone, my name is Avram K and you're watching Alfei Panim Parshas Devarim 2025. Medrash Rabbah on this week's Parsha brings a pasuk in Mishlei. One who rebukes a man will later find more favor than one with a slippery tongue. Rabbi Pinchas said in the name of Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, one who rebukes is referring to Moshe, a man is referring to Klal Yisrael. The Sefer Moshe U'Melitza writes that this medrash teaches an important lesson on both giving and receiving toichacha, criticism. Due to space constraints, I've only quoted the beginning of the medrash here, but I encourage you to look it up if you can. We see a big change in Klal Yisrael's spiritual level between Sefer Shmos and Sefer Devarim. By Har Sinai, the Jewish people famously said, "We will do and we will hear, na'aseh v'nishma." This statement is described by Chazal as a deep spiritual secret previously known only to the Malachim, the angels. In Sefer Devarim, 40 years later, the Bnei Yisrael reverse themselves and say, "V'shamanu v'yasinu," and we heard and we did. They are no longer on the lofty level of the Malachim, and thus no longer fit to express themselves in that manner. And when we compare the present day in which we live with times past, we too have to change the order of hearing and listening. In the past, when Judaism stood firm and faith prevailed, the doing came before the listening. The people knew how to keep and do all the words of the Torah, and the continued existence of Judaism did not specifically depend on Eila HaDevarim, these things. The rabbis, the Rabbanim, did not have to speak continually to the people about the observance of Torah and the mitzvahs. The people held on to the doing, the asiyah, and the listening, the shemiyah, the hearing of drushes and speeches and sermons from Rabbanim found its place only in isolated occasions. And now, unfortunately, a time has come when people have descended from that level. We have ceased in many cases to be the people of the book. The Sefer Moshe U'Melitza was written about 100 years ago, and times were a little different then. And despite the tremendous increase in those learning Torah and yeshiva seriously nowadays, many of us are unfortunately no longer capable of learning for ourselves from Sifrei Musar and Sifrei Halacha. It is only due to the nishma, the sermons, the shiurim, the drushes that we hear from our teachers and our rabbanim, that there is survival of the very foundations of Torah education and charity and chesed and of Jewish public life in general. And now, in such a period, Rabbanim and educators must consider their words very carefully when they speak to the people. They must know how to balance their words. The sages of the Medrash taught that the word Devarim, words, is related to the word Devarer, which means a bee. A bee possesses both sweetness of honey and the sharpness of its sting. It is the duty of the one giving teichacha, the one giving musar to the people, not only to speak and express words that would be pleasant like honey, but also, when appropriate, he must also use sharp words, the sting of the words of Chazal. Chazal offer a hint to this from Hashem's instruction to Moshe by the sneh, by the burning bush. It says, Shal naucha me'al raglecha, remove your shoes from your feet. They say that the word na'al, the word for shoe, is the initials of the words from Perkei Avos, Neshichas and Neshichas Shual, Akitzas and Akitzas Akrav, L'chishasan, l'chishas saraf. Their bite of the chachamim is like the bite of a fox. Their sting is like the sting of a scorpion, and their hiss is like the hiss of a viper. Hashem is directing Moshe to remove the na'al, that when he prepares the future leaders of Klal Yisrael, he is to do so while removing or at least tempering those harsh characteristics. The idea of utilizing both the honey and the sting is further demonstrated in the war with Amalek. Aaron and Hur each held up one of Moshe's arms. Aaron, who was Oyev Shalom v'Roidev Shalom, someone who loved and pursued peace, is likened to honey. Hur, who challenged the people and attempted to stop them from committing the sin of the golden calf, is compared to the sharpness of a bee's sting. Moshe needed the support of both qualities to lead Bnei Yisrael to victory. Another important point can be brought out from the Medrash concerning the relationship the one giving Musar has with the people hearing it. It is absolutely critical that any faults and shortcomings on their part do not weaken the importance and value of the people in the eyes of the one giving Teichacha. This is what the Medrash brings, and Moshe pleaded with Hashem and said, Hashem, why does your anger burn hot against your people? Lama yecharei apcha b'yamecha, asher atzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim, that you took out of the land of Egypt. And as the Medrash says there, did you not bring them out of Egypt? Moshe found a virtue, a limud zechus, about them in that they had just come from a place of impurity. And it was therefore no wonder that it was difficult for them to separate from the ways of the Egyptians among whom they had lived for centuries. And the Medrash continues that Moshe's great love of the people, even at the time of their greatest sins, stood before him until HaKadosh Baruch Hu came upon him at the time of his death. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was weeping, and he said, "Who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will take a stand for me against the evildoers?" The Medrash is telling us that Hashem wept because there was no one else who could be Melamed Zechus on Klal Yisrael, who could be Dam Lekap Zechus, who could find favor, even when they had their worst failures. And one final point, just as there is an obligation on the teacher to watch how he speaks when he gives rebuke, so too there is a parallel obligation on the part of the people. They must also take care to not only seek out the sting of those words and use them to jab and stab and lash out at the speaker. They must make an honest attempt to find the sweetness and goodness in what they are hearing. Have a wonderful Shabbos. My name is Avram Kay, and you're watching Alfei Panim.